Hey everyone, this is Rob from StationSky.com, and this one is for my dad. This is the first chapter of the Perennial War of Paramours that I wrote I published this past August. I'm about to start entering it into competitions, and I've got a lot of good feedback from friends and family members. But my dad, because he's not a reader. We'll go ahead and say that. But he drives a lot, so I told him for his birthday I was going to put together this video where I'm just, it's not an audiobook, but you can definitely play this while you're working or while you're on a long drive. All right. The first chapter. This is just the first chapter. That's all I'm going to do for today for this video. It's called Marcus Angel. Women really do run the world. Getting shot's probably not the best way to start the story, but here it goes. Streetlights, the glint from her golden earrings, the flash from her muzzle, and then I died. Even as I type this, I still can't believe it. But in the end, what I saw with my own eyes confirmed what I suspected all along. Women really do run the world. Ever since I first laid eyes on her 12 years ago, Anna Marie has held the title as the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. This includes actresses, singers, and Insta models. None of them could hold a candle to my Anna Marie. At first glance, it didn't make sense why she was working for a startup company to begin with. She looked like she belonged on a housewife show, lounging on some beach or shopping it up. The way she carried herself, her height, her posture, her physique, it was ridiculous. As if she trained her whole life to win every pageant. Anna was a stunner and she didn't even know it. Or maybe she didn't know it and just didn't care. Back then, Anna was so bubbly and free-spirited, the type of woman who would get out of my car at a stoplight if she spotted a frozen yogurt cart in the corner. I'm not saying I like unpredictable women, but I confess there's something about her I found superior. She lived for the here and now. She was free, fearless. I respected it. Thus, her association with the likes of me was a bit of a mystery in the beginning. Just to be clear, Anna was never officially my girlfriend, but someone who preferred hanging out with me as opposed to everyone else. Sure, I made her laugh with my observations and blundering Blythe, but back then I was an overweight black guy who was too goofy and animated for his own good. I turned my back on religion and barely had a social life because I didn't drink or smoke. And more importantly, I had no direction in life, no clear or concrete goals, no purpose. Women like Anna have a way of changing a lot. You can't be with someone like her and have absolutely nothing going for you. You just can't. I realized this the first time I pushed her away. My dumbass caught feelings, and somehow I had the courage to just come out and tell her I loved her. I told her that to her face. She smiled and shook her head and told me that it wasn't love but lust. She used some Spanish word to describe it. I was embarrassed and promptly walked away in the middle of that conversation while she was still talking. In hindsight, I do think I should have stayed and played out that discussion, but my heart, I was too weak. Next came that war, that Cold War of awkward tension and lovesick agony, the cliche CW show where the whole season could have ended with just one conversation. For the next few years, Anna and I would toy with each other, each trying to make the other jealous. We'd go the extra mile to outperform each other at work, each trying to rise above the other in terms of station and pay grade. During those years, I lost over 100 pounds. I joined a gym, worked on my cardio, and embraced a period of enlightenment, so you can gain philosophy in matters that were otherwise foreign to me, such as psychology, romanticism, politics, and cultural diversity. Anna evolved as well. She joined a fitness boot camp. Every week it was something new: skydiving, swimming with sharks, shooting at the gun range. I even heard she took MMA classes, which really burned in my chest. The thought of her rolling around with other dudes. Couldn't watch UFC the same way again. And of course, during that time, Anna was rarely without a man. One after another, they came and went, buying her flowers, picking her up for lunch. I sit there in my cubicle and just take it. She paraded them around, introducing them as if everyone in the office had magically forgotten about the last one. It hurt, but I never let her see it. And it wasn't just that she was going out with other men, it was the kind of men that they were. All of them looked like they played for the NFL. All of them looked like $1 million, suited and booted, impressive cars, edgy cuts, thick beards, and tatted up with that bold, it's all good charisma. They all had the same bass heavy voice and barely showed any emotion or facial expressions. They were cool, hip, and exuded an air of confidence. Alphas, the complete opposite of who I was. Call me a hater, call me a beta, but I knew that no matter how much I bettered myself, I could never be them. For years, I had to listen to Anna brag about her penthouse parties. She appeared in music videos and even modeled designer dresses at the Met Gala. The Met freaking Gala. She was living life in the fast lane so far ahead of me that I couldn't keep up. I wanted to say that I stopped trying, but that wouldn't be true. The thing is, I honestly believe Anna was putting on the act. A bold front for her city girls and the socialites she cavorted with. We were in our late 20s. She was a sexy Colombiana who could have had any man she wanted. Of course she was going to run to town. Of course she's going to get tagged in everyone's social media posts. But deep down I felt I knew the real Anna. I was there for her before she donned the skin-tight two-tops and heavy eyeliner. I saw her cry. I heard her regrets. I listened to her speak so passionately about what she wanted in life, why she lived each day to the fullest. I knew about her family, her sister, her upbringing. I knew the real Anna Marie. Then 3 years after I told her I loved her, Anna up and left. I didn't have all the details, but from what I gathered, she found another job on the West Coast. And even though she was never officially my girlfriend, we never kissed or made out, anything like that, when she left, it felt like one of my best friends had just died. I went into work the next day and was like, now what? I know that might sound strange, but the mere presence of her was like a drug that stimulated me. Once she was gone, there was an empty place in my heart. I had withdrawal symptoms that left me somewhat depressed. In the 3 years that we worked together, I've been attracted to no one else. This woman really was the center of my universe, my drive, the source of all my ambitions. With her being gone, what's the point? Why work so hard? Why this intense focus to keep improving myself? One day, after a couple months had gone by, I woke up and had that Peter Parker moment where I looked in the mirror and realized I really am an impressive guy. When you're in the midst of progress, it's difficult to see how far you've come, but I really had transformed just in time around my 30s. My columns now average over 30,000 readers, 3 of which were circulated nationally and went up for awards. I used to weigh 378 pounds and now I was a solid 215 in a 6'3" frame. I could run, I could fight, my confidence was through the roof, and more importantly, I reconnected with our Heavenly Father, reading the Bible from cover to cover. It shifted my priorities and taught me to place my faith in God, not people. And keeping my eye on the culture, I certainly saw how America changed in the last 2 years. As a following her departure. As a millennial with some intelligence, I felt responsible for what was happening to my generation. They called us snowflakes. They said we were lazy and entitled. They said most of us lived in our parents' basement, that the institution of marriage was on the decline. But there was a silver lining, a beaming ray of light penetrating dark clouds. That ray was called progressivism. The disgruntled had voices. The special interest groups had assembled. Protests and marches galore. Everyone took to the streets demanding to be heard. And what's more important, and what's more surprising, was not only people were listening, they believed. I believed. But here's the problem. Here's where I'm more or less bleeding myself as I step out into shark-infested waters. What social and mainstream media had been feeding us, what they've been telling us about what's been happening in the world, it was all just an illusion. It wasn't real. It was a projected fantasy that they were hoping to make a reality by tricking the masses, by lying to us. The reason why it worked so well in the beginning was because people had effectively found a way to silence the opposition. Anyone who disagreed, anyone voicing a view that went against popular opinion was labeled a racist, a bigot, a supremacist, a sexist. Their careers and reputations were ruined. As I said, this had gone on for some time. As a minority, and worse still, a minority within a minority, I initially felt like I didn't have a leg to stand on when it came to such squabbles. I decided to make it my goal to expose these tactics and introduce a new theory of softcore oppression that attacked free speech and essentially free thought. Then, last year, a string of sexual misconduct allegations toppled some of the world's foremost figures in entertainment and politics. Good, right? I had no love for the rich and famous, so screw them. That was my first thought. That was until I was approached by a man in a midtown Manhattan parking garage. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, this is cliche. Let me guess. He brings you some secret files that prove your theories are right and spark some controversy. Nope. Well, maybe he was going to do all that, but before he could, he fell dead before my feet. I could still smell the blood as it misted across my lips. I couldn't believe it. I must have stood there for some time just staring, shocked, thinking, this can't be real. He was breathing one moment, walking up to me, and the next, red and blue lights came out of nowhere. Police cuffed and questioned me at the scene. As baffled as they were, one could only imagine my own mystification that gradually escalated into righteous indignation, a journalistic need to launch my own investigation and get to the bottom of what the fuck just happened. The man had just been shot in the back of the head, but there was no one else in the parking garage save for me. It must have come from a sniper. It was a business district, and our parking garage was surrounded by high vantage points. The Chrysler and Empire State Buildings were just a stone's throw away. I spent the weekend in police interrogation, replaying the scene over and over again. The man said his name was Terry. That's what I told the police. Terry mentioned that he had read some of my columns over the years and respected my intuition. That's what he said. Now, maybe because it was just past midnight, and as a black man in Midtown, I wasn't accustomed to being randomly approached by dudes emerging from the shadows. But what he said after that left me puzzled. He died before he could explain, but it was enough to plant the seed. Terry said, "What do you know about a feminist group called the Society?" As he lay dying, with half his brains blown out, he whispered, "Our turn. Our turn." My boss let me take the week off. I wasn't booked or charged with murder, but remained a person of interest. The police pay me a visit every day, and my story never changed. I told them the truth as I knew it. But what was the truth? What the hell was the Society? Who the hell was Terry? I googled feminist society and found all sorts of special interest groups, but from what I read, the most prominent one involved the LGBTQ community, but not exclusively feminist. It was inclusive of Muslims and minorities, a term rising in popularity called intersectionality. I even went so far as to visit the main branch of the New York Public Library. I passed through Central Park and Union Square asking every hipster and apparent lesbian about it. No one knew. It felt surreal. And it stuck in my mind that this man died and his last words were, "Our turn." On a Friday morning during the police's routine visit to my apartment, again, I asked them about the likelihood of a sniper. They said it would have been impossible given the trajectory. So I said, what if I wasn't alone in the parking garage? Again, they weren't buying it. Despite the fact that I had no gun residue, the fact that I never even held a gun before, the fact that cameras catching me staring in front of Terry while he was shot from behind, they were still convinced I was a killer. Yep, law enforcement. I went back to the crime scene, scoured the parking garage, and couldn't find a single clue. The society angle was bugging me. For weeks, I was obsessed with it. I must have published over 20 articles with theories about some underground feminist movement. When I bounced opinions off my colleagues, they all thought I was jaded. There was a bunch of gaslighting and talk of PTSD, so I couldn't blame them. Maybe I was. Sleeping was difficult. Even in a half-sedated state, I kept hearing Terry's last words. Our turn. Our turn. Our turn. Our turn! Our turn! My eyes open. It was the middle of the night and I had fallen asleep with the TV on, as per usual. CNN had replays of a party convention in Detroit. What I saw, it sent chills down my spine. Maybe it was because I was still groggy and the rest of my apartment was pitch black, but I could have sworn I saw someone standing in the corner of my living room. I opened my mouth to scream or call out, but what came forth was nothing short of a flat croak. I swear I'm not crazy. The figure darted across the room like a shadow wiping by the TV. He opened the front door and left, slamming it with a bang so loud that it sounded like a gunshot. I got up, whipped on all the lights, drenched in sweat. It's our turn! Now it's our turn to rise up! I looked at the TV. The convention. The woman standing at the podium and leading the chant was none other than our first female presidential candidate to ever win the nomination for a major political party. Everyone was cheering for her as if she already won. I stood there baffled, cringing with fear and frustration. But it was in that moment I was struck by an epiphany. I couldn't articulate it just yet. At that point, it was just a theory, but something told me it was in my best interest to attend the next convention and see this presidential candidate up close and in person. Hopefully I could get a chance to speak with her. Maybe she could help me. The next day I had lunch with a colleague. I paid. It was a bribe to get her assignment to cover the upcoming women's convention in Louisville, Kentucky, where I knew the candidate was scheduled to speak. And there, in the midst of my promising some favor I never keep, after well over 2 years, in walked Anna back into my life. Oh my God. I literally said it out loud as if I was witnessing someone jump in front of a bus. Anna Marie. She was exactly the way I remembered in my dreams. The twinkle in her eye, the sunlight caught in her raven hair. I swear I must have seen doves fly and all the traffic lights stop at once as she crossed the street. It was weird, but my mouth watered. She was smiling at me, heading my way. She was coming to see me. I wasn't dreaming. This was real. I stood up. I waited for her to go first. She didn't. She just smiled as if, because it's not like we were on the best of terms when she left. I even remember sending her this long heartfelt text message wishing her well, and she only responded with K. Now here she was, projecting such adoration. Why are you still so weird? Were the first words out of her mouth. Completely flabbergasted, all I could do was laugh. I introduced my colleague, and soon after, Anna and I were strolling down memory lane. It was also down a real hiking trail called Memory Lane, a brick-paved walkway through Central Park where a group of artists gathered to paint. I asked how she'd been, keeping my questions vague and my guard up. Any attempt to show how much I still loved her would have no doubt put me in the... This is good. Any attempt to show how much I still loved her would have no doubt put me in the same sunken ship that was now dredged up by her spellbinding visage. She told me she was doing well, making 6 figures and traveling the world as a brand marketing consultant. It was unexpected how genuinely pleased I was to hear how she was doing well. I used to dream of how our reunion would go, and for some reason I always pictured her on a warhorse on the other side of the battlefield. She always said she wanted to get into advertisement, so to hear that she had accomplished her goals, I was proud of her. I couldn't stop smiling. So what brings you back to New York? Wait, Marcus, I want to hear about you. What have you been up to? What's your latest? Do I tell her about the murder, about the PTSD, or my obsession in trying to get to the bottom of this supposed feminist group that may or may not exist? I started boxing, I told her. Yeah, I had my first match a couple of months back. It was for a fundraiser. I lost, but I scored a knockdown with the kidney shot, and that's all I really wanted. You don't realize it, but you get gassed out pretty early. 3 minutes after the first round and felt like I ran a marathon. It's ridiculous. What about your writing? She inquired. What about it? She fumed through the nose. Just like before, it was the cutest thing. I could tell she knew more than she was letting on. It wasn't difficult to find out about me. All you needed to do was enter Marcus Angel in any search engine. I think she expected me to be as loose-lipped as before, but what the heck? Let's test the waters once more. I'm looking into feminism, I told her. Feminism? Why? That's not your forte. Culture and observation is my forte. And a lot's happened recently that's got me seeking to understand the plight of our fairer sex. To be honest, I still don't even know what feminism is. There's no concrete definition, a lot of contradictions, 3 or 4 different ways. Some groups say it's about equality, equal pay and opportunity. Others suggest feminism is exclusively about the betterment of women, specifically in terms of education, acceptance, and more benefits like free healthcare and contraceptives. You know, it's more than that though, Anna began. For years, women have been abused, oppressed, and subjected to the tyranny of men, seen as nothing more than property or objects to cook, clean, and conceive. Not all men think like this, of course, but the men who matter set the course for those who follow. Undue concern for women leads to contempt for them, maybe. But what's more important than that is instilling a sense of strength in a woman. Not so much independence, but at the very least, abolishing the fear of said independence. We're not victims as the paper would have you believe. We're survivors, embattled survivors. There's a difference. I was blown away. Those were some deep words coming from someone who used to shake her ass in videos that would make Casanova blush. I wasn't above the idea that people could change, but still. She caught me staring. With a playful smirk, she reached over and tapped my cheek to turn me away. Why do you do that? She said. I used to hate that. Do what? Stare at me as the thought bubbles percolate. I'm sorry, I'm just impressed. Back then you seemed so superficial. Perhaps it was my own prejudice. I assumed with that body and that face and all the dudes that flocked to you, I don't know. I just always thought my deep talk used to bore the hell out of you. It did, she said, snorting with laughter. But also, I don't know. I guess a lot of what you said, it kind of sank in, whether I wanted to or not. I also hated that. I'd be in the middle of a photo shoot thinking about your stupid theories. You have a way of doing that, of entering the subconscious and flipping over tables. To dig through all the useless stuff and pull out what's important, I added. Yes, but there's nothing wrong with a little trivia now and then, what you call useless. That's something I don't think you ever understood. I know you want to be a Pulitzer Prize writer or whatever, but sometimes you get so bogged down in details that you lose sight of the bigger picture and miss out on what's really important. No woman wants to feel like they're second place to a goal, Marcus. We need to feel like we are the goal. Anna, you were. God knows you were, for years. But you gave up on me. I told you I loved you. How clear did I need to be? And you laughed and you said it was just lust. Then you brought all these big ass swole dudes around me and you knew how I feel. You knew. If you loved me, Marcus, you would have fought for me. You would have never let me go. I don't want to sound arrogant, Anna, but I'm not like these other dudes out here, right? I used to weigh 370 pounds. I'm 6'3". I was a fucking monster. If any woman tells me no or pretends they don't want anything to do with me, I back off. Especially now when simply making someone feel uncomfortable is considered sexual harassment in the court of public opinion. Yeah, but this isn't the court of public opinion, Marcus. This is me. I told you I loved you, Anna. If you think that was easy for me, you're out of your flipping mind. Oh, you sure made it look easy. That's because I don't mess around. I don't spit game. I'm straightforward and honest. I know that makes me sound desperate or whatever, but it's who I am. To pretend to be someone I'm not, our relationship would cast off on a ship already full of holes. What if I told you I like monsters? She said. You left an impression on me. I can't ever shake you. I don't think I want to. We stopped, face to face in the middle of a scenic park under swaying branches of golden leaves. It was deja vu. Not the first time we were caught in a standoff, lost in each other's eyes. Anna, I smirked. I'm not entirely sure if you're trying to sound romantic or soliciting medical advice. Her smile could melt the polar ice caps. No matter how much I wanted to resist her, she was too fucking beautiful. Like a coward, I averted my eyes, and no sooner I did, Anna took hold of me and kissed me with a passionate release like a volcanic eruption. I felt the warm firmness of her body, and I'll never forget it. I wrapped my arms around her and didn't let her go. I gave my virginity to this woman. I swore to myself that I'd wait till marriage, but Anna was my kryptonite, the one woman on earth who could break down the walls of my faith. For 2 months, I spent every night with her. All of my dreams, all of my fantasies, all of my wishes came true when I was with her. Her eyes, her lips, her smile, her voice. I remember telling her, I don't mind dying if it's in your arms. God, do those words haunt me. 2 months after our first night, I was in Louisville, Kentucky for the women's convention. It was held in a lavish downtown theater. 'Twas strange, to be honest. As much as the left liked to brag about diversity, I stood out like a sore thumb. I was the only black guy in the venue and just one of a few men, carving through a sea of long blonde hair. They were polite enough, but I could sense the caution. It's like being a gorilla at the zoo. They'll watch and marvel at me, but no one wants to get too close. I found a group of thick beards lounging by the PA system. I asked if it was their first event. You know, small talk to get them to open up and let them know I'm friendly. This is good. I found a group of thick beards lounging by a PA system. I asked if it was their first event. You know, small talk to get them to open up and let them know I was a friendly Negro. Every word out of their mouth seemed programmed and rehearsed. I controlled my facial expressions and acted like it was the first time I heard the current events that they were regurgitating from the news. Then entered the presidential candidate. The lobby erupted. It was louder than a rap concert in Harlem. I thought the chandelier was about to come crashing down the way the trinkets rattled. As a huddled mass of blushed cheeks followed the candidate into the auditorium, my eyes settled on a woman in tight jeans. It happened in a split second, and I quickly darted away before anyone could catch me staring. As I looked away, it was just by chance that I glanced up at the second floor walkway. A velvet rope blocked the staircase entrance. In that split second, I caught the sight of a shadowy figure dressed in black with their hand resting on the banister. The figure moved behind a pillar and into a hallway that was out of view. Damned intuition. I was compelled to follow. For a man of my height, it was easy to step over the velvet rope while everyone else was still distracted. Borrowing the persona of a security guard, I hurried up the steps, but not too fast, dutifully, as if it was my job to go up and check on something. Approaching the corner, I backed against the wall and peeked around. 5 of the most stunning women I've ever seen were standing in a circle just as a 6th one was joining them. They weren't wearing black robes with hood as initially thought. They all looked like businesswomen, dressed in black corporate attire, projecting strong confidence in the boldness of their eyes and the firm posture by which they stood. I began to slouch, lowering to a crouch, my eyes hooded in suspense. One was black, one was Asian, the other 4 were white. It was a team, no doubt about it. They spoke in low, discreet whispers with this serious disposition as if they were about to pull off a heist. For all I knew, it could have been someone's security detail, but my intuition was telling me, as always, to be silent and observe. They started walking my way. My heart skipped a beat, and it was so abrupt. I turned to go back the way I came, but I saw 3 more ladies all dressed in black heading my way up the staircase. They were about 40 paces out and in plain view. They could have seen me, they should have seen me, but they didn't. A pamphlet in their hands kept their attention while I dashed into the nearest room and locked the door behind me. I found myself now in the middle of a ballroom, donning the glitz and glamour of the grand old South. Wooden floors, burgundy drapes, a grand piano, and paintings of old men in antebellum suits. I wondered and missed it all as a sweat mounted under my collar. The doorknob rattled. I looked around. There was nowhere I could hide my tall frame except for the piano. I raced for it and slid to my knees like I was leaping over the hood of a car, scurrying to the other side of the piano before tucking into a fetal position between the piano and the wall with my head just peeking around the keys. The door opened. Clacking heels sounded like drops of hail on the hardwood floors. There were 9 of them. They entered and huddled around as if they couldn't wait to get down to business. "How long is it gonna take her?" said one with fiery eyes and a bob cut. "Soon, Scarlett. First things first, what happened at Berkeley?" said the ringleader. The dial moved sour further. Some put their hands on their hips, others looked away. Brienne. The leader's name was Brienne. Scarlett had the bob cut with heavy red eyeshadow. I could tell she was fearless and wasn't about to back down from a damn thing. Brienne had dark hair with dazzling blue eyes. Her voice was naturally loud, clear, and eloquent. They weren't standing in a perfect circle, but it was clear that they all rallied around Brienne. The black woman, named Celeste, she spoke and said, "According to my contacts, everything went according to plan, but the protests and riots got out of hand. You know how the campuses are these days. It's a powder keg. Once they start setting fires, the police got involved. There's no way we could have gotten to the speaker without being compromised." "I would have gotten to him," said Scarlett. "If we sent a full-fledged sword in the first fucking place, this wouldn't even be a discussion. We gave Celeste a chance with her piece of shit contacts, she blew it. Let me take the first flight out. I'll kill him and be back in time for Scarlett." "Mandy, shush." In a flash of caution, Brianna whipped her cold eyes around the room in a scanning sweep. I had no idea what the hell was going on. But in that moment, I felt my phone slipping out of the... But in that moment, I felt the phone slipping out of the fabric of my pocket. I took it out and pressed record on the camera. Here, I recorded all 9 women. 4 had their backs to me. I had a side profile of Brienne and Celeste, but Scarlett, that heartbeat was facing my way. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. "We can't have you flying out to California, Scarlett. I need you in New York. Things are going to get worse before they get better," Brienne said. "What do you mean?" asked another. Brienne sighed. "Contrary to the polls, more and more is looking like we're going to lose this one. That orange clown is going to take the White House. We need to start making preparation for our next phase." "What? We spent millions on Hollywood. What about the incriminating tape for the bus? What about all that crap we planned with the Russians?" "It looks like the FBI is sitting on it," Brienne explained. "Look, don't worry. I'll deal with the director myself. In the meantime, we have to face the facts. We lost this one. I have to explain what happened to the 12 chairs. Ladies, all of us are still young. There will be other elections, but for our seniors, they've endured so much for nearly half a century. They've been waiting their entire lives for this moment, their entire lives to see a woman in the White House, and we blew it. We pandered to the wrong groups. Millennials are idiots, and Hollywood's so blind about money they could care less about any cause or conviction." "As expected," Celeste quipped. Brienne squinted. "Excuse me?" I told you that pandering to minorities and special interest groups was a waste of time. Political correctness, social justice, it's just a fad. I was against it from the start. We underestimated the silent majority. Whether you believe it or not, it does exist. You don't oust people from power, you use them. Brienne's lips tightened. I don't disagree with you, Celeste, but you're crying over spilled milk. We cut our losses and continue to move forward. Get rid of all loose ends. I mean it. Nothing's guaranteed. That's why we have contingencies. And you'll do well to keep that ego of yours in check. Celeste turned away. Scarlet was emotional, the frustration apparent. We have to make this right. We owe it to the society to make up for our failure. Speak for yourself, Scarlet. I did not fail, Celeste snapped. Enough! Just as Brienne was raising her voice, Scarlet moved to shove Celeste against the wall with a knife to her throat. Celeste was trying to push away, but Scarlet was leaning in with all her strength like a defensive tackle. It was scary intense. I thought Scarlet was going to slit her throat the way they thrashed about. Celeste didn't scream or beg her to stop. Everyone just stood around like it was a gang initiation. You're starting to try my last nerve, Scarlet growled. Celeste smirked and spit in her face. Their struggle intensified before Brienne finally nodded for the others to casually walk over and separate the two. Then the door opened. One of the men I was talking to earlier had entered with a bewildered expression. Brienne threw a judgmental glance at the other women before approaching the man. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I heard a commotion. I figured I'd just come. Oh! Before the man could finish, Brienne yanked him into the room and sliced her bracelet across his neck. It was unreal. I watched as a painful grimace stretched across the man's face. He dropped to his knees and plopped chest down on the floor as blood drained from his neck. As calm as she appeared, I knew Brienne was fierce. She stood in place for no less than 10 seconds, staring at the body before she slammed the door shut and locked it. Code 78. Do it, please, she instructed. Just like that, Celeste immediately shed her contention with Scarlet and whipped out her phone. The other women rolled up their sleeves as they held it around the man's body, checking his pockets, collecting his fingerprints, and snapping photos from every angle. Meanwhile, I was petrified, my heart's beating like a kick drum. Yes, is this a stage manager? Celeste said in a country accent. Listen here, I plan a bomb under stage. If you horse think you can come to my country and indoctrinate our wholesome women in your immoral, wicked, and ungodly ways, you got nothing coming. You some bitches got 3 minutes to evacuate the building. If anyone dies, the blood's in your hands. With that, Celeste and 2 others left. Already I could hear the panic from the lobby with the door opening and closing. Then, 3 more women entered. These newcomers were dressed in casual clothes as if they were part of the audience. They brought in heavy-duty trash bags and a caddy with cleaning supplies. There was no emotion. It was like routine. The man was still alive and bleeding out, and I saw his feet twitching. Scarlet and Brienne had the man's wallet. They exchanged a look of disappointment and stepped away from the group, coming closer my way. That was Terry's brother. Fucking loose ends. I knew we should have dealt with him too. We need to burn down this venue, at least this ballroom, Scarlet suggested. Brienne nodded, sighed, and whispered, I'm only barely containing my rage right now. These mistakes are adding up. They're hurting us. They're hurting me. Enough with the games, Scarlet said in a fiery whisper. Enough with the manipulation, enough with the incentives of wealth and power. I say we move to instill fear in these motherfuckers. The society is not to be trifled with. A sword once drawn must taste blood before return to its sheath. The will never be broken. Brienne looked as if she was strongly considering Scarlet's words. The women dragged Terry's brother away from the door and onto the outstretched trash bags. They emptied bottles of cleaner on him, one after another. I couldn't stop staring. The ammonia was intoxicating. And if you ask me, I say we start with the Andalusian. Scarlet, don't. She's still technically an outsider. She still hasn't finished her initiation. It's been 2 years. She's one of our best operatives. If it wasn't for her, I get it. But the girls are talking. It's not fair we had to kill our men while hers are still alive and kicking. You know what kind of message that sends. She'll do it, Brienne asserted. And if she doesn't, then I'll kill him myself. My palms were damp with sweat. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a hard clack. Just as my eyes widened with terror, Scarlet stomped at the piano bench, slamming it into my wrist and the wall. I shouted in excruciating pain. The jig was up. I never knew what it meant by adrenaline kicking in, but I shit you not, pure adrenaline had kicked in. I went into autopilot. I can't explain it. The throbbing pain in my wrist acted like an ignition switch by which the motor skills fired on all cylinders. One hand picked up the phone while the other shoved the piano bench back towards Scarlet. I saw a glimpse of Brienne's soul-piercing eyes from up close, and I swear it was like staring in the face of a lion. The furl of her nostril, the rage shaking the bangs of her long black hair. She ran at me with a quickness. I damn near dislocated my knee trying to jolt up to a full stand. Brienne threw 2 punches. I dodged at first, but her right cross hit me like a baseball bat. Thankfully, I stayed upright with wobbly momentum, carrying me closer to the door. I eventually took off in a full sprint, stopping just for a second to see if I had grabbed my phone. It was sheer dumb luck. I had stopped just in time to avoid a dagger Scarlet had flung at me. It struck the wall before my eyes, so I thought, screw the phone and raced for the exit. I barged out the door. 2 ladies were on the ground. Apparently they were guarding the door just as I came barging out. Scarlett and Brienne was charging like special teams from a kickoff, and Celeste was dashing up the stairs to my left. In a sheer act of desperation, I leaped over the second floor banister. My foot caught the railing and I plummeted into the lobby, crashing through a foldable table full of bottled waters and white linens. Everyone was in full evacuation mode, and oddly enough, I didn't feel a thing. I rolled to my feet and kept moving. Sharp zits passed by my ear like angry gnats when suddenly people started to topple over. Screams screeched and I saw the blood splatter over white shirts and horrified faces. I knew. I didn't have to look. Someone was shooting at me. I just kept moving toward the front doors till I was finally out in the middle of downtown Louisville. The police had showed up and formed a perimeter, but by then I was a couple of blocks away. I got my rental and just sat there drenched in sweat, my body sweltering even though it was freezing outside. The state of disbelief was monumental. It felt like an elaborate prank, as if they knew I entered the ballroom, as if they knew I was hiding, and they killed that guy just to fuck with me. I started the car and drove a few blocks down the street where my hotel was, still downtown. It was a historic hotel, complete with a grand atrium, bellhops, and concierges at every turn. I was so dramatized that I didn't want to turn my back toward any woman. I distinctly remember a team of female basketball players lounging by the bar in their jumpsuits. One of them waved at me with a wink and a smile, and I must have just stared at her as if she had 3 heads. I've never been so nervous in my life. My head was throbbing. The pain from Brienne's punch and falling through a table gradually settled in. I couldn't hear anything. Not the running water from the fountain, not the ambiance music, not the scores from the TV set, nothing. I remember hunching over in the elevator lobby as I waited for the doors to open. I thought I was about to have a heart attack or a stroke. There was this dense fog clouding my vision, a side effect of a migraine, I thought. It wasn't until I got into my hotel room and sat down at the table that I calmed down and had a moment to process. I had just witnessed a murder. My prints were everywhere. I had to report it to the authorities. I reached into my pocket and there it was. My cell phone. It was no prank. When Terry's brother entered the room, Brienne slit his throat with some razor on her bracelet. I covered my mouth in horror as I watched the recording, seeing Terry's sick and twisted expression. Shit, man, I whispered over a clenched fist. Keeping oxygen in my lung was somewhat of a task. That and finding out the urge to puke my guts out over the carpet. This society. Who the hell are you people? I whisper. Bam, bam! My eyes darted to the heart-slapping knocks coming from the front door, and for some reason I looked to the window too, as if someone was about to come crashing through by rappelling from the roof. I didn't have to answer it. I came to Louisville by myself. Maybe it was the hotel staff or one of the female basketball players coming to try her luck. More than likely, it was the police. So I hit my phone and slapped by the AC unit before heading for the door. I remember looking through the peephole, and nothing could have prepared me for the stupid panic attack that scared across my chest. It was Anna. My Anna. Anna Marie. The Anna Marie who strutted back into my world just 3 months earlier. She knew I was going to be in Louisville, but I never told her which hotel. Now here she was, standing outside my very door, dressed in professional black corporate attire, same as those cold-hearted bitches who killed Terry's brother. I stood there, petrified, as if my brain was in the process of rebooting. Before I knew it, Anna kicked the door in and it smashed into my face. I staggered back, gripping my nose as she entered with a grim disposition. I looked at the nightstand and rushed for the landline. She charged over and tackled me against the bed. My head hit the nightstand and we tangled up. I double hooked her arms to swing her off of me, but she did the same and swung me away from the phone. I had superior upper body strength, but Anna was a dancer. She used those powerful hind legs to pick me up and propel me backwards into the bathroom. We went crashing through the doors like 2 bears fighting over territory. She kept mumbling something, but I was genuinely frightened for my life. I tried to use the sink to pull myself up, but she pulled me back down. The side of my head hit the edge of the toilet. Stop! She shouted as if she wasn't the one whooping my ass. I didn't stop. I didn't want to die, not in the bathroom. I didn't stop. I didn't want to die, not in the bathroom in the middle of Kentucky. I didn't stop. I didn't want to die, not in the bathroom in the middle of Kentucky. I confess, I was fighting her with the same maximum effort I would towards a man. Not that it did any good. I was throwing jabs and uppercuts that she parried and slapped away as if she was playing with a toddler. She threw haymakers and elbows that connected and rattled my frame. She was properly trained, and I was outmatched. But I couldn't give up. I didn't want to die. I swung at her face, giving it all I got. She caught my arm, pinning it against the sink counter, and popped out of place like snapping a branch from a tree. I must have screamed so loud. The intense fiery pain burst in my arm like boiling acid within. She put me in a headlock, and after grappling for some time, I finally took the shower curtains and wrapped it around her head. Hooking her with my good arm in a last burst of strength, I forced her out of the bathroom and slung her across the bed. She went rolling. I went running. I heard her shouting my name as I dashed down the hallway. I ran for the stairwell at the end of the hall, and just as I came within 20 paces of it, 2 ladies in black pantsuits exited the stairwell doors. They whipped out guns, but before they could take aim, 2 shots crackled out. The ladies fell, and I turned around to see it was Anna with the Glock in her hands, chasing me like a leopard hunting down a wounded prey. I gimped into the stairwell and used my belt to latch the door handle to the knob of a nearby gas pipe. As soon as I did, Anna banged against the door. I never thought I'd be so terrified of that beautiful face. I limped down the stairs, floor by floor. Each step I took sent shooting pain from my shoulder down to my spine. Entering the lobby, confusion hit. It seemed more packed than earlier, and it was getting late. The basketball team was still there by the bar. They were all staring at me. The 2 female receptionists were staring at me. The female concierges, the female bartenders, the female male companions in the lounge. Everyone stopped and stared at me. The elevator chimed. At once, almost all 50 women in the hotel lobby took action. The entire basketball team charged at me like a herd of bulls. The receptionists had shotguns. The concierges pulled out knives from their hair, and the lady with escorts with male companions were flipping over couches and chairs to come at me. I'm not lying. I know all this sounds crazy, but as soon as the elevator chimed, it was like a dam had burst, and over 50 ferocious faces flooded me at once. I ran as fast as I could for the front entrance, but it hurt so bad. I was out of breath. My legs felt like they were weighed down. A shotgun blast tore into a support column directly in my path. I spun as an eruption of rocks and wood sprayed and scraped across my face. One of the basketball players shoulder checked me, and I went crashing through a window, falling at least 6 feet out into the sidewalk outside. Bystanders gawked as I writhed on the bed of broken glass and cold cement. I looked down past my boots to see women pouring out of the hotel. I cringed. Clinging to the God-given inclination to survive prompted me to bypass common sense and stagger into busy traffic. In the middle of downtown Louisville, I hobbled across a 6-lane street as cars blurred by, the wind drift tugging me along like a leaf caught in a current. Horns blared and brakes squealed. It was hopeless, but I kept going, one step at a time, bleeding and clutching to my dislocated arm. Then, just as I was one lane away from the other side, I turned with one eye open. The women from my hotel were staying put. They had formed a line standing abreast in front of the hotel as if they were merely commissioned to bear witness to my execution. A black SUV with tinted windows hit me dead on. I felt my shins and my knees shatter like graham crackers. My organs exploded within. I was launched 15 feet before skidding into a gutter. Half submerged in filth, piss, and rainwater, I watched as the woman of my dreams approached and stood over me with the city lights behind her. Anna Marie aimed a gun and fired twice. Once in my chest, once in my neck. My mouth gaped open as my head went limp and slumped over. Then she walked back to the SUV, entered with Scarlett behind the wheel, and Brienne in the passenger side. Don't ask how I was able to observe this, just know that I did. The SUV accelerated. Scarlett intentionally drove up on the curb, and the right front tire came inches from grazing me. She missed my head but crushed my arm that was already dislocated. That's the last thing I remembered. I survived, clearly, but how, why, and how long I've been out is all still a mystery to me. The only thing painfully clear is that the love of my life tried to kill me. The love of my life. As soon as I get out of this place, I'm going to find her. This isn't over. The Perennial War of Paramours. And that's chapter 1. Marcus Angel. Chapter 2 starts with Elliot Chan's story. It's called The Green Cocktail Dress. And it's another story. And yeah. Feel free to check it out on Amazon.com. This is from my dad. It's actually Thanksgiving. I had some time and I knocked it out. I hope you guys like it. Thank you.